You can look up, but I had a previous video on some bad regulations that are coming down the pipe as it relates to Wisconsin. And it was more of a public service announcement, warning, call to action. And that came out, let's say, a month ago. It's April 1st right now. That was probably around the end of February, early March. Man, so much has changed in Wisconsin, let alone the country and the world. With COVID-19, there's so many more concerns. Pretty scary stuff right now. And so we had meetings coming up for the state of Wisconsin, and you could voice your opinion. I believe that was April 13th. They're going to be at 7 o'clock in every county across the state. And of course, not only is that not happening, it probably wouldn't be a good idea, or it would not be a good idea. So obviously things are changing. And for that, when things change this quickly, especially with state government entities, I know the state of Wisconsin is doing their best to try to organize this and allow you to have some input. And some things have drastically changed. I'm going to go through that with that proposal. And just real quick, that proposal, I'm sure Dylan can flash up that board we had before that I was talking about in the list, and we can show that for a little bit. But really, there were some major proposals to the deer hunting regulations coming this fall. I don't like them, and a lot of people don't like them. In fact, when that came out, I want to say we had close to 400 comments. I could be wrong on that, the number of comments. There are a lot of comments. I mean, I might be thinking a thumbs up, but thumbs up versus thumbs down on that video. The approval of that video was at 94%, meaning it was a negative video towards the proposals coming, and it got a 94%, over 94% of folks that watched that video gave it a thumbs up, and that was open to the public. It was shared hundreds of times on Facebook, social media, and so it was a really good test for how many people approved those proposals. I hope the Wisconsin DNR takes a look at something like that, because there's probably close to 50,000 views right now. It's in the 40s. There's a lot of people that watch it, soaked it in. For one, we're not listing them right here, but one of the talks is moving up the gun season date. Another talk is a 5 to 7 day quiet period before the beginning of gun season. So basically, as a bow hunter, you would lose your rut. Let that soak in. You literally would lose the peak of the rut so that more bucks are safe for gun season. It's crazy. I think the number is, I want to say off the top of my head, so if these numbers are a little off, but I know I'm close, I believe that 42% of all bucks are shot before opening day of gun season. So you think about that, 42%, it sounds like a lot, but I don't know the number, but I would suspect that roughly 40 to 50% of bucks are shot opening day of gun season. So let's just offer a little perspective there as far as the whole thing about any regulations with any state, with any deer herd management is about balance. Balance for one weapon, how it ultimately affects the entire herd, the entire harvest, the balance of seasons. That's why in the state of Wisconsin, we don't have gun season that lasts for 3 months plus, like bow season, because that would eradicate the herd. We would go back into the dark ages of when we didn't have a lot of deer, decades ago, and we had to have restocking programs and rebuilding programs, and it was not common sometimes to see a deer when you're driving around. Now they're all over the place. But there's got to be some balance in there. I feel we already have a good balance. Moving up the gun season closer to the rut, it places a lot of bucks within harm's way with our large number of hunters that Wisconsin has, and that could be an epic failure just that first year. Getting rid of the rut for bow hunters, ridiculous. If there's a gun hunter that wants to hunt during that time, they're very welcome to hunt during that time. And I don't like that it pits bow hunter against gun hunter. I bow hunt, I family crossbow hunts, I vertical bow hunt, who cares? Same impact. I muzzleloader hunt, I rifle hunt, I used to shotgun hunt. I went out to Pennsylvania rifle hunting this year. I bow hunted in Michigan on public land out in Pennsylvania. I just like hunting whitetails. I'm a whitetail hunter. I'd like you to include yourself as a whitetail hunter. It's almost like I'm a bow hunter, but boy, it's almost embarrassing to admit you rifle hunt. Oh, I rifle hunt just because it's fun, it's tradition. You're a whitetail hunter. It doesn't really matter which weapon you use, but you have to assess the balance of those weapons as it relates to the big picture of deer management. You really have to look at what the impact is. 42% of bucks are shot before gun season, and I would bet the number is equal to or right around that same number shot just in the first few hours of opening day of gun, let alone the entire opening day. That's a good balance. That's the way it should stay. Another thing is taking crossbows out of November and putting them into only October hunting. So no crossbow hunting in November. So those 50% of you out there, or whatever the number is that uses crossbows or for bow season, you can't use them in November because you're somehow lesser than vertical bow hunters, and that's not the case. We're all whitetail hunters. We have a good balance the way it is. Crossbow versus vertical bow, ridiculous. We're all whitetail hunters, and for all you, again, I'll say it again, for all you compound snobs out there, for all you compound hunters that think that no one should use a crossbow, I think each one of you should go back to using a recurve or a longbow. Because really, if you want to get traditional, if you want to get technical, you're saying you're okay with your compound, you're okay with your 80% let off, with your great sight, with your drop away rest, with your stabilizer, with your perfect arrows, your perfect machine vertical bows. It's just about any make makes a high quality bow out there nowadays. You're saying all that's great, your laser rangefinder, but someone can't use a crossbow. Again, I think if you really want to be a purist, that you sound like you are, go back to using and try a longbow or recurve bow or something like that. But I know you don't want to do that, and I don't want crossbow hunters not to be included in the fold. I appreciate that 50% more hunters, or whatever the number might be, are using, or 100% more, are using compound and crossbows, and they're included. It doesn't matter what, you're included in the hunter ranks. We need more whitetail hunters. We're at a time where we're losing numbers. That's why there's harvest declining numbers, because we're declining in the number of hunters. Last year, opening day of gun season, it was on the 23rd. The year before, on the 17th. The 17th is still towards the end of the rut. The 23rd is not. Right when that rut ends, those bucks have been really cruising for 3 weeks, 25 days, whatever the number. They've been really working hard. They've lost an appreciable amount of their body weight. They're ready to lay up. So when that rut ends, they just sit tight. And if it's opening day of gun season, you're not going to see much. And that's just the way it is. To move it earlier and expose more bucks to hunters, to get rid of the rut for bow hunters, to extend the gun season, extending in another 10 days, 9 days, whatever it is. That's one of the proposals. Again, you're going to expose more deer, and look at it this way. Most gun hunters, I'm a gun hunter myself, are hunting just a few days out of the season. Now, I hunt about 16 days a year. I hunted 16 days last year, 17 days in 4 states, shot 3 bucks. I'm trying to be on my game. I'm trying to be efficient in the woods, only hunt the best times. And so it's not like I hunt all year or take advantage of all these days. But bottom line, there are some proposals. You really need to check them out that could hurt the state of Wisconsin. We have a good balance. If you don't agree with me, go check out Michigan. Go maybe hunt Gaylord, Grayling areas, some central areas where it's sandy soil. I've had clients there in central Michigan. I've had a client that on 80 acres, 2 sides of a road, 40 and 40, they went 7 years without seeing a buck during the daylight hours. 7 years. How many of you gone 7 years without seeing a buck during daylight hours on private land, let alone public land? This is private land. So everything's relative. You know, people say, well, what do you do on a Michigan parcel where you're just not going to see those 5-6-year-old bucks that might be 180 inches, 160 inches, whatever. It's all relative. Those people enjoy, you know, in those locations, there's areas in Michigan where they shoot 4 and 5-year-olds every year. And there's some giant bucks in southern Michigan. But there's areas where to see a 2-year-old, 3-year-old buck once or twice a year is really pushing it. So I help them achieve that and find that success. But again, it's different from state to state. We have it really good overall in Wisconsin. So I urge you, here's the update of what's going on. You know, we have the COVID-19, things are in disarray. So of course, it's all going to be phone in and video. Right now, this is updated for April 1st. Visit the DNR website. There's phone-in meetings that you can listen to currently going on. And unfortunately, there are different times for every county. So they started on March 30th. Some are already underway, but they're all the way through March 9th, depending on what county that you're in. You can listen to that phone-in meeting, but you have to look at your specific time for your specific county. They might even be lumping a couple counties at a time together. Now, a different way you can watch it is the wildlife officials for your county, your local district wildlife biologists that are working hard and trying to process these numbers and explain them to you. You can watch a video for your county through April 9th. And again, this is all moving pretty fast, so I'm hoping I don't get these details wrong. But you can watch a video through March 9th about bag limits, numbers of deer, deer harvest numbers, projected deer harvest numbers, season dates, extended archery and crossbow dates like they did last year all the way through January 31st, the holiday hunt, extra doe seasons. So you can watch all the recommendations for the local biologist in your area, and they'll have that video and those videos for your county through April 9th. You just have to visit the Wisconsin DNR website. Then here's the really important part, and maybe I should have led with this. They're going to give you time to comment from April 16th through April 29th. There's an online comment form that'll be available on the Wisconsin DNR website. I do not have the link. You can find that. I'm sure it'll be on the front page. It's very important to the Wisconsin DNR, let alone you as a deer hunter in the state of Wisconsin. So whether you agree or you don't agree with what I feel and with what over 94% of the people that watched the last video about this felt, I really encourage you as whitetail hunters to band together. And even if you disagree with what I'm saying, this is your opportunity to comment from April 16th through April 29th. Visit the Wisconsin DNR website. And this is critically important. Again, it all goes back to balance. We have a very good balanced herd for Wisconsin. And I encourage you to compare us to Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, some of the more fantasy land, big states where there's not a lot of hunters. Wisconsin does pretty well. I think Wisconsin has done a good job managing the balance of the recreational opportunity for each weapon in our state with the overall objectives, meeting numbers of deer people want to see, meeting trophy deer that some people want to see, meeting balanced buck numbers. The Wisconsin DNR has a really hard time. Yeah, Iowa does not have a lot of numbers, Kentucky, but Wisconsin has a lot of numbers. I think close to 400,000 bow hunters at one time. Michigan is over 400,000. Some of these states have a lot of numbers. They're trying to satisfy so many different special interests. And that's why I think groups like the QDMA, they have a lot of branches. It looks like a C. You go across from Wisconsin to Michigan to Pennsylvania to New York, all the way down the coast, and all the way through some of the southern states over into Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. Because the heartland of the country has very few hunters. For that, they have good deer herds, and for that, you don't have a lot of people trying to figure out what to do next. And that's the same with the DNR in those states. They have, to me, an easier job because they're not having to satisfy hundreds of thousands of hunters at a time and all these different voices. Wisconsin's done a good job. We have a good balance. That's shown with even our record books. It's shown with the number of deer we see. That's shown by the number of hunters we have that hit the field every year. We're losing hunter numbers across the country, not just Wisconsin. This isn't just a Wisconsin problem as far as numbers. But diminishing the quality of the herd and the hunt in the state is not the answer to appease special interest groups. That I had someone say, hey, I only have time to hunt 2 days a year, and it's opening day of gun season the second day. I want success. I want results. I should have a chance too. Yeah, you should have a chance. But you're only putting 2 days into your hunt every year. And this is what I commented on YouTube. So for that, you should expect 2 days worth of success. Means maybe every 8 or 9 years you shoot a buck or have a chance at a buck. There's people out there that are putting 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. It's almost like, well, you're saying that you put 30 days in, you should expect a booner then every year. And so every time you put more days, you should expect a booner. That's not the way it works. People have different skill levels. People put different amounts of time in it. But if you're only putting 2 days of your hunt into a year, that's awesome that you're a hunter and you're included in the whitetail ranks. But you obviously have other priorities in your life. And it's not all about deer for some people. Some people it is. For the people that place that as a huge priority in their life and make it a way of life, have consideration for that big picture of everything and how the balance fits in Wisconsin, from balancing the number of days of field per weapon, how that totally impacts the hunt. And think about that. Yeah, that's a large number. 42% of the bucks are out of the herd by the time gun season rolls around. But I bet you there's that same amount of bucks that are gone on just 1 day of gun season. Think about that balance. This is your time to comment. Again, you can watch those videos, see your local recommendations by the local good folks that are trying to decipher all of this, because a lot of these proposals come from above. They're special interest groups. This big gun hunter that has a lot of money and a lot of influence on land talks to this state representative who knows someone at the DNR high up, and you have that governing board. And that's really how politics work anywhere. I don't know why it'd be anything different in DNR. Unfortunately, all these local biologists have to decipher through this. They have to make rules that try to appease everybody. They're trying to go through a really good process now in very difficult times in our country. And I hope you take the time to comment, watch the videos from the local DNR that's available, maybe get on those phone call meetings if it hasn't passed your time already. And I encourage you to voice your opinion, because these are some proposals coming down the pipe that could really change our hunting in a drastic way for the worse for a decade to come or more. And I encourage you to take your part and give some input. And of course, we're doing it online, and that's appropriate for these times. And you know, I just want you to have a great hunting season this year, and I want to make sure that your voice is heard as it contributes to that hunting season coming up here in 2020.